when you're this close to your client's face and you're right above them and your nostrils are there and your mouth is there, you don't want to breathe on your client, so just make sure you tilt your head so you don't want them to feel your breath on their face, especially if they're eating onions and garlic. Just gently softening up the shoulders. And as I'm wiggling her, I'm kind of observing down her body and just seeing if there's anything out of alignment, anything I need to do. I'm actually going to bring your hair right off the table if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
When you're starting a massage, it's very important that you're in the right frame of mind, that you have the right intention. Whatever you can do to put yourself in a caring space, just kind of leave your worries at home. Don't worry about the kids. Don't worry about the unpaid bills. Don't worry about how you're going to pay the mortgage or whatever. You know, there's lots of worries in life, but the client can always feel the energy of your feelings. You know, whatever your thoughts and feelings are. Maybe they can't read your mind, but they can certainly pick up what mood you're in. They can tell when you're present with them or not. They can tell if you're connected or not. They can tell if you got good vibes or bad vibes. You know, if you were cut off in traffic and you're still stewing at the guy. You know, just let it all out. Just let go and be present. I find what's helpful for me is if I just have a mantra in my head and, you know, sometimes just saying thank you over and over again in your head. You know, not out loud, but it seems a little creepy. Thank you. But if you say it silently in your mind's eye, you know, or just, you know, just without words, just focus on gratitude. You could think loving kindness and compassion. Tension in the head can be just like anywhere else in the body. When it comes to oil, some people don't like oil on their face. Some people do like a tiny bit. What's your preference, Asia?
You can put a tiny bit.
A drop or two, eh?
It's like I can vanish.
Now we probably did some work in our certificate and diploma courses in the face. We spent at least a good day on it, I'd say.
So I do mention to students to not push too hard on the tear ducts because I've had a student actually do that accidentally and it really hurts. So make sure you stay on the bone, not where the tear ducts are. It's good to do light movement to get the lymph flowing, but not a heavy pressure in the tear ducts. That's painful.
You guys know where they are? So
Just
here and here.
You probably shouldn't be really putting your fingers in someone's tear ducts. Period.
Well, it's good to move the lymph fluid though, right? With the light
Yeah,
pressure,
just an
but you don't want
acupressure
to dig hard, so
Right, so like just a little bit.
just a little
Just find
reminder.
a little bit of the cavity. So as you're exploring, you're going to feel some areas that just feel a little tighter than the other. You don't want to use the chopsticks or the acupressure tool on the face. I mean, I guess you could, but I don't know if I'd want to do it. But a lot of people have tension in the forehead. It's not so much with Asia. She's actually in a really good shape. But if she did have a lot of tension, she'd be a little bit more crinkled here. Right? When people are have brooding thoughts or are really worried about things, it kind of manifests on their face right here with a tight brow, You know, things are scrunched up, and that has a chain reaction of kind of like pulling the scalp, and then it brings the neck tight to the head, and then the shoulders rise up. So it's all kind of, you can get a lot of results softening up the neck and the shoulders and the back just by working into the forehead. So if you,
Sometimes they have pea-sized knots in here.
yeah, certainly.
I was also like doing stuff to my face and forehead yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it feels pretty good. I don't feel like there's a lot needs to be done. When you're doing this move where you're kind of making a little valley for the eyebrow, the bone of the brow, just be careful because your fingers can touch their eyeballs. So just be a little bit careful. Now everybody know where the temples are? There's a really soft spot right here just past the eyebrows, kind of at the line of the top part of the eyes. So you can press a little bit, but you don't want to put too much deep pressure there. It's quite a sensitive area and it can feel quite painful, unnecessarily painful. I mean, you can work into it and you should work into it, but it shouldn't be excessively hard. Okay, from there you can hold the points here and then take your other finger and work a little bit along the cheekbone. I'm just gonna...
The dream cream there is some of Asia's favorite oils.
Oh, the dream cream, okay.
That's it, you named it?
Yeah.
That one next.
Yeah, I brought mine.
Now when you're working with some essential oils, you want to make sure you don't get close to the eyes because even the vapors can feel quite strong. Now right here, if you got all feel on yourselves, just kind of as you get from the groove of the ear here behind the earlobe, you could feel right into your jawline. This is a good area here. This is the TMJ, the temporal mandibular joint. So the mandible means jaw, so it's kind of halfway between the jaw and the temples. And it can be quite an intense area. It's an important area to work. So I do little circles and then I kind of catch the muscle and just lift it a little bit. I'll lift it towards the jawline and then give it some reward. Right, so you can see I'm kind of looking for, you can see the line of the jaw from the neck kind of traces right to the ear. And then just above that, right along the jawline. Yeah, it's not always the most pleasurable. If somebody has like a talking job, so dream cream. If somebody has a talking job or sales, telemarketing, chewing gum, grinding teeth, all these things can lead to tension in that area. So just do a lot of warm up first. And one of the ways I like to hold my fingers is here. So 3 fingers are kind of just supporting and caressing, and then these 2 fingers, the index fingers, are my excavation fingers. So they just have a little bit more of an angle to them. There's a really powerful point right here. You can feel it on yourselves. There's a little indentation right in the front and forward part of the cheekbone. You can press up against it. So it's an acupressure point. I heard that if you ever get stung by a bee, this is the pressure point you're supposed to hold to kind of
I can feel it.
alleviate the pain of a bee sting. I'm waiting for the opportunity to try it, so if anybody has any bees and wants to sting me, I welcome it.
Test it out on your child.
Do you know what the acupressure point is actually for, though? On the cheekbone? Because we keep teaching it, but then it's like,
Yeah.
what's it for?
Isn't it for emotional release?
It's part of the stomach meridian.
I think it's emotional release.
It's not sinus, it's
Yeah. So you can feel, if you squish your nostrils together, not when you're exhaling, but you'll feel a little indentation right there. Yeah, that's also a nice pressure point. Okay, there's a pressure point right here. Try to follow along if you can. Right at the top of your, let's start with some, right at the top of the ears, okay? You're gonna feel a little indentation, and it just fits perfectly the rounded part of your finger, your index finger. They're just meant, you know? Slot A into tab B. Just fits perfectly, right? And then also you can feel one right here. So just hold it for a second or two, no more than that, because it can be quite painful. But it's kind of like activation points, you know? There's a whole theory, a whole study, a course of study called traditional Chinese medicine. And they talk about all these different points. Every point here on your face has some sort of corresponding reference to some sort of health condition or different organ systems.
You take Indian head massage. That's all you're doing is the head.
Okay, I really feel the majority of Asia's tension is right here.
Mm-hmm.
Open your jaw a little bit. Okay, try that. Open your jaw and then feel these points here. What's the number of the pressure?
6, 7.
Okay, you can go a little bit more. And temper it with some reward.
So are you working along the jawline there again, or?
Yeah, so here's the bone of the jawline, but
Yeah.
just up from that is the
Sort of
muscle,
like
the chewing muscles,
the
right?
chewing muscles? Yeah. Sort of parallel to the lower set of teeth?
Yeah, I would say. I'm just kind of following the tension. I don't really, I just kind of feel for lumps and bumps. We found one here, so we're just gonna. We say pay attention to the tension. You can see she's reacting to this, so I know she's obviously tight there. It obviously needs some work. If I bypass it, the tension's going to stay there, right? I really want to get rid of this tension. I want to help her. Okay. But now, right, we can kind of take it from there. Okay. Do a little bit of the jaw here. And now maybe we can just try some supporting bands. Okay, and come down the neck a little bit. And see if because when you chew, okay, everybody chew really hard, right? Look what happens. So this gets engaged, and then look at these muscles, right? So it's all kind of interconnected. So she was tight here, and now I'm just checking the supporting muscles. Some reward. Maybe I can use some rolling knuckles just to add some variety to it. It can't be all intense all the time. Maybe a little bit of a pinch roll. What's in this dream cream?
Ylang.
Yeah, sounds very floral.
Lavender. It's like we made a mixture of both one day, and 4 out of 5 were the same. Lavender, grapefruit, geranium, lemon, ylang. Ylang, actually, I was corrected.
Really? I didn't know this.
Ylang, yeah.
Oh.
My Filipino students corrected.
Now you might also want to try to get on the other side. So here we're working above the jawline. Now we can work a little bit underneath the jawline. It's a little bit of a sensitive area because it's really close to the throat, the esophagus. But I can feel some tightness right in here. And again, I've got my fingertip curve so I can access that. Now, who in their practice has worked the neck?
I do a lot of neck
A
work.
little bit?
Yeah. I do this under the jawbone lots. It's
Big.
But I tend to be massaging specific muscles like the scalenes or.
I don't think in terms of, never thought in terms of a muscle of bone. Or
Well,
or anything.
that's what I'm learning at this is like stick with
simplify.
stick with the bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
the magic is the simplification of the system that has been like taught, 60, 70 students since January. It just seems so simple. People complicate it, yeah. But like if you follow the tension.
Now we can try the other side. I'm just supporting the head. I'm just cupping it like a bowl. And the base of the skull is going to just fit nicely into the palm of my hand like this. So there's just a tiny knot here. It's patience and persistence. Okay, some nice reward. Can rotate her head a little bit. Try to press this point on your own selves, close to the ear, just back from the jaw. What does it feel like to you? Press with a little bit of force.
Very sensitive.
Yeah. But it can hold quite a bit. Okay. So we can kind of get a sense by how she's reacting. There is a lot of tension here. Probably hasn't been accessed in a while.
Is that the outer thumb band?
I think so, yeah. Outer thumb band's going to come here. Sorry, the outer wrist band.
Outer wrist.
Yeah. Outer thumb, outer wrist. Now I can access the back of the body bands that go up to the head. So that'd be the big toe sacrum band, Achilles heel band, little finger scapula band. So there's two ways you can work it. You can kind of glide along it and follow it in a linear path, or you can transverse it. So you kind of snap across. But you have to do a little bit of both. Right? When you find a little area that's just slightly knotted, just give it a little jiggle. Okay, or you can just hold it.
Would this generally be detailed work you would do after doing the arms?
I don't know. Every case would be different. You know.
Typically, that's what I do because I feel like it lets go a lot easier if you work the arm bands that are leading up to it. Depending on, like right now, he's not working the arm ones. It's the
Yeah, it's a
back.
big toe sacrum. Achilles heel.
It also depends if
Yeah.
the head is the root problem for all tension.
Which I haven't found very many people with that. Very few.
So Terry, you want to explain what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I'm finding the pivot point. So that C1 vertebrae is called the atlas, and I've got my fingertips like this, okay, and it's resting right at the base of the skull where the head meets the neck. And I'm just trying to soften up those bands there, and I'm kind of priming the head. I'm getting it ready for an adjustment or a stretch.
Don't tell me about the adjustment.
you
So
want?
not too ready for it.
Do you want it though?
Yeah, oh my god, of course, yeah. I know I need it.
It's very important just to soften up the neck. You can't go into it cold. You can't go into it, you know, without working on it. So this is a little stretch. You kind of bring the ear to the shoulders, and you're getting an idea for where the resistance is, and to see the readiness of if you can do a nice stretch with a little bit of thrust.
If someone is holding so much tension that you can't get
Then
much
don't
of
do
a
it.
side,
Yeah.
don't do the,
Well, don't do what I'm going to do.
yeah.
Oh, nice.
So can you explain how you did that?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to learn it, I can show it to you guys. You don't have to do it, but it's just a little bit of a neck adjustment. So Brandon taught me this, I don't know, 7 years ago. Oh, no, it's longer than that, 9 years ago. And you kind of, everything has to be relaxed. The client has to be surrendered. You cannot force it. Under no circumstances do you force it. Okay? So just bring the ear to the shoulder. One hand underneath the ear. A gentle twist, the other hand on the jaw. And then just feel, right? If they're surrendered, at the very bottom of the exhale, just a little bit of a thrust.
And you really have to make sure they're relaxed. Because even that stretch when he's in, you have to make sure, because sometimes they tense up because they know it's coming, so you really want to know for the first.
If there's any type of resistance, then you're trying to force something that's being physically locked, right? So you can strain it a little bit. So it has to be surrendered. If you feel any resistance, just don't do it. Keep working a little bit more. And you try to kind of get them to look over their shoulder. you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say the chiropractor always tells you to look the opposite way or whatever.
It's ear to shoulder first, and
Yeah.
then.
I felt some resistance. I'm just resetting. And you don't even have to thrust it. You can just let the weight of the head kind of stretch gently against. Right?
And even that sometimes puts the neck back in place, just the stretch.
Oh, nice. That one really needed it.
So there's something called the head, belly, big toe connection. So I've done a really good job opening up the head, working into the neck. And I'm just going to see what's going on in the belly. I start with a gentle rock. Now, the thing about this rock, a lot of people have some difficulty with it, but you're trying to find the center of her body. You're trying to move her from her core, not from her surface. Okay, you see the difference here? I don't have enough, I haven't taken the slack out of her body. So my hand is really just kind of moving the skin. And I'm just kind of rubbing her exterior. I need to find her center. So when she exhales, I'm going to sink, compress until the tissue doesn't compress so much anymore. And I can feel I have her from her inside. And it's almost like I'm moving her from her spine. Move from the center, not from the surface. Okay? You got to find the flow of their body. And when you push, the whole body should kind of move in unison with your hand, not in opposition. Right? So when I push this way, her body's kind of gone that way. Right? It's not really in tune. But here you can see the difference. When it's done right, do you see how fluid that looks? When it's done wrong, it looks like this. But it's a loose, firm grip. My fingers are kind of not really doing any of the work. It's more my elbow, my shoulder, and the heel of my hand that's doing the work. My fingers are just kind of hanging out. And then you might ask, well, what are you looking for, Terry? Okay, so I'm just kind of searching for resistance. I want to, as I'm doing the rocking, I'm getting a lot of information by how much tightness is in her abdomen. Okay, it could feel linear like a band. It could feel like a ball. It could feel like a bubble. There's many different forms that it can take, and I'm just trying to find the anomalies and then work into those anomalies. Also, I'm looking for the reactions. So she reacted to this spot. I put my fingers kind of a little bit from a straight down approach. I can actually feel her heartbeat through her aorta. This is what's bringing the blood to the legs. And I'm going to use the heel of my hand and now sink into that spot. Now, it's vitally important that you don't just force your way into somebody's abdomen. You're meeting and greeting and allowing them to surrender underneath your touch. Make contact with that tension, but don't push it. Just meet and greet it. Say, hello, tension. I see you, I feel you. I'm just going to make contact with you.
So are you pretty much in the center or slightly
In this
to the
case,
side?
in this case, I'm in the center. Yeah, because that's basically where.
Does the big toe belly band basically become one band up the center?
Yeah, like railway tracks around the
Very
navel.
close.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like the heel of my hand is quite large, so I can actually access the left and the right band.
That's
At the same
kind
time.
of what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then I can do the front ankle delta band, right? So here I can feel the big toe belly band, front ankle delta band, upper little toe band, right? Those are all the ones that kind of come from the center. And then even further would be the side leg band. I don't know if you guys can see the chart. If you feel them tightening their muscles, that means you're trying to go too far, too deep, too fast. Okay? So then you got to soften up, let them catch up with their breathing. And you can also work into the pulse. When you feel that pulse, go for it. So you can see on the chart, they're really close together, close to the navel, right? It's the yellow bands right there. So her belly button is right there. So by proxy of having my hand here, I'm actually getting both of the big toe belly bands. If I'm trying to get the front ankle delta band, I'd come this way.
And can you feel the bands in there?
You can. Oh, some people, so like I said, sometimes it feels linear in nature, and that means the bands are tight. Sometimes it feels more like a ball or a bubble, in which case that'd be more emotionally driven. Right? That's emotional tension or traumatic tension. Whereas the bands might just be physical tension.
I never put that together.
Is there like a landmark, like number of shens? Is it the finger widths?
I don't think of it in those terms. I'm just going by feel.
Okay.
Right? I'm feeling for resistance. I'm paying attention to her reaction. She's going to let me know where the tension is. If I can't feel it specifically, she'll let me know by her response. I'm just kind of exploring. I've got my little antennas, and they're just kind of searching the landscape, right? They're checking out the landscape. They're seeing what's what.
And the way we were taught was look for the bands. It's all about the bands. There's nothing else on this body but bands. And to find it is the guitar snap. To go across and look for the guitar snap. So when
Yeah.
you're learning, in the learning stage of figuring out these bands through the abdomen, no thank you.
In the belly, it is all about the
You can
bands,
do
but there's
the-
also another component as well too, because you've got the intestines, and the intestines is where you have a lot of emotional, right? And so that sometimes you can feel in the intestines balls or bubbles, marbles, and it feels more spherical in nature or more lumpy in nature. And they can actually be between the bands.
It's really good to work those small intestines because a lot of food that gets fermented and stuck in them, in the little curves and corners of the intestines. When we move that around, you're able to eliminate all that stuff, right? The bad stuff that can cause diseases later on. So belly works really important.
I recall it was taught to us that we should come from the right up and over and out the left. So that
Yes,
we-
you're absolutely correct.
Unless someone has
Diarrhea.
diarrhea.
Then you go the other direction.
But for the most part, you always go with
That's good to know.
against it.
Think about anatomically, we've got the components of our large intestine is the ascending colon, which comes up from the right side, transverse colon to the descending colon to the rectum. So you see I started here, and then a little bit, as I'm doing the pump, I moved the heel of my hand. I don't know if it's kind of subtle, maybe you didn't notice it, but I kind of moving it upwards a little bit. Here I'll make it a little bit more visible, and then I can come across. This is still, I haven't really done any excavation yet. This is still kind of exploratory, warm up and assessment. I'm just trying to feel where everything is. Yeah, there we go. Now, once she inhales, you have to make space for her breath to come. So you have to ease up a little bit when she's inhaling to make space. But you can still maintain contact with the tension. So that was a little bit of excavation. Now, one really important area is the diaphragm. So think about where that is. The rib cage is kind of making, a letter A, the top part of a letter A. So we can follow up the center of the rib cage. We can make the same shape with our hands and fingers. Okay, we see luckily the middle finger is longer anyway, so it kind of fits perfectly right here. But come back a little bit, go down, try to get, if this is her rib cage, you're trying to get underneath a little bit, ever
Under
so
the
much.
xiphoid process, right?
Yes.
The little bone that sticks up, so you want to get under the xiphoid.
See if you can
process
feel that
before
on
you
yourself.
push on top of
With
it.
respect and love and care.
Yes, because it's quite sharp. So
It's
there's,
very sensitive.
it's like this, and then there's a little
That's
bit
the
that
Bruce
goes
Lee
down like
1-inch
that.
punch of death. You can still see it right there in the xiphoid process.
and then come up underneath, and then hold that diaphragm and pull it down.
Opens up the chest cavity. Lets them breathe deeper.
Now, I'm making progress, but we all know it's about the roots, right? The roots of tension. There's tension on the big toe belly band, so what's the root of that? Big toe, right? So we're doing the head, belly, big toe connection. We are going to come back to the belly. Can I take off your socks? So it's very rare that we're just working kind of one band on its own when we have our pincer grip. We usually have the opposing bands, right? So big toe belly band, big toe sacrum band. I'm getting them both at the same time, right? Now, start at the very tip and then work your way. Okay? And just like Karina was saying, just be mindful of the nail bed. You don't want to be too close to the side. You don't want to go underneath here. You don't want to go too close to the side there. You can work this spot right here, just back from the nail where it meets the skin. This is a very important area. And I find people can have a lot of tension here. I gave the little tug on the big toe. I folded it down and then I pulled it outwards, right? That's how you would click the big toe, but it didn't give, which means there's still some tension here and there's still some work. Okay. So first I'll just explore. I feel, somebody asked, what does tension feel like in the toes? Well, it just feels like tension anywhere else in the body, but smaller. Just this one little, it's like only like a square millimeter and a half, basically. But I can just feel there's just a little bit more rigidity to it. Now I like to use, I saw some people kind of holding the chopstick like this. I don't think you're going to get the accuracy and the precision, and I think it's a little bit easy to slip.
You might be able to feel the tension.
So just hold it like a pencil or a pen, or a paintbrush. If your hands are oily, just, wipe off the oil on the sheet, and then you won't slip.
You can do the work through the blanket if you're really struggling.
Okay. You can even put some score marks in your chopstick as well too, just, or wrap some tape around here or something, just so you get a little bit more of a grip if you're afraid that you're gonna slip off. But that's about as close as the nail as you want to get to the nail bed. Right there, maybe a millimeter. Okay, some reward.
And keep it, this is just a chopstick, like it's not a special red shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like pretty well anything that you can use anything for a tool if you are stuck and you want to get there's something pointing your
Yeah,
way.
I've used big pens. Or
Yeah. You don't have, this is not a special, if it's not this tool, it's not going to work. You can get creative, make your own.
Now, because the chopstick is so precise, you don't have to do a lot except hold the point. Right? All I'm doing is just holding it there, and she's reacting to it.
I like to look there with the chopstick. I'm a little meaner.
Yeah. You like to wiggle a bit? But you notice the difference when I start to wiggle, right?
I don't like the wiggle, it's too much.
It can be a little bit overwhelming for sure. So initially, while there's still a lot of tension in there, I'm just going to hold it. I can feel the energy. Okay, give it a little bit of reward. Now, You can actually use the rounded part and you can roll the chopstick. Maybe you could use, that's just a pattern painted on. So you can give it a little bit of a roll. Okay. Smooth it off.
Trevor had said he was not as intuitive as some yesterday, so while I was on the table receiving that work, I was trying to be mindful of how I could help you with that, right? I didn't come up with anything, because I'm just like, if the conscious connection is there, you should be able to close your eyes and feel something there that has changed.
I can feel them. I just find it challenging, at least yesterday, with that. I've used a pen before, and I could feel it a lot. It was easier to feel for some reason. But with, yeah.
I think it's probably just because you had your massage first.
More heads do, more of the back than anything.
Again, I'm matching the excavation with the breath. As she inhales, I ease off a little bit. As she exhales, I sink into it. Or maybe I can hold it for a breath or two. Yeah, doing great. So the tip has got a lot softer to the touch. But as that gets softer, it makes me more notice the side a little bit. So the band is kind of coming through here and then going this way now. So I'm just continuing the work from the tip to the little bit to the side. Whoever thought that just this little point could have such a profound effect on a massage treatment?
I put an article on the website about the breath. What is the magic in the breath and how it helps us? And this is just a scientific journal article. We have volition over our breath. It's a choice. We can control our breath. Animals can't do that. Those other kind of animals. The deer, his breath gets worked up when he runs, and then when he stops running, it comes back down. He can't choose to take a deep meditative breath, but we can. And so that is the magic I find here. He couldn't have done this work as soon as she laid on the table without having primed that breath. And she's now in the rhythm of it, so she's able to process through it.
And that's our automatic function.
Right. Take that breath, control that.
Giving her a little break from the pokey prodding. All right. We've activated it. Let's see if I can adjust this toe. Still hasn't given yet. Okay, so we'll work it a little bit more. We'll work it right into the joint. Now I can just, it's a black sheet, but you can see here's the toe. And I'm just working right into the side. So you want to find that alternating, right? Push the top part of the joint in one direction as you're pulling into the opposing direction, and then alternate. You can probably see it a little bit better this way, right? So we've made some improvement. It started as a log, the whole thing kind of rolled as one, but now it's got a little bit of an independent wiggle. Okay, it feels more like a chain link as opposed to a log, right? Now, somebody said, what, you can work right into the joint? Absolutely. So, right? The joint is where two bones connecting, and you want to get some space in there. Get into the hinge points, right? So there's a top hinge point, there's a bottom hinge point, because this is where it folds over, and there's even a left to right. It's not as predominant, right, or doesn't have as much range of motion as the top and bottom one. This one can do, I don't know how many degrees of articulation, but a lot more than the lateral side to side. But it still has, right, it still has a little bit of a wiggle.
Any precautions or for people with arthritis in their joints?
I find a lot of people who come to me say they have arthritis just have a lot of tension. And you remove that tension and miraculously no arthritis. Unless they've been, really diagnosed with it, they've seen on x-rays. But some people just, arthritis is just one of those words people say, oh, I have arthritis of my joints. Well, have you ever been truly diagnosed?
Well,
Have you been for an MRI? Have you been for an x-ray? Because if they haven't been officially diagnosed and they just kind of think they have arthritis, generally it's just tension.
yeah.
you know.
In the Alexander technique, their theory is that arthritis is caused by excess tension on the joint.
Exactly. And just think what itis means. It just means inflammation of, right? And inflammation is a temporary condition. It's not permanent, right? It can be affected by food, your diet. It can be affected by an injury, but it can also be cleared. It can also be healed. Right?
You notice she's back on her face again too. He's working her face and from her head up, right? So it does go back and forth. I find, right?
I've wondered about arthritis a lot. I work on a lot of people that have arthritis. A lot of them come only just once in a while, and it relieves their arthritis for quite a while. And so, since doing Raynor and working on so many people that have all these different things with the word itis at the end, I don't really know if I believe in any of it.
Inflammation of, right?
Yeah.
A temporary condition that can be alleviated a lot with massage.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, so we've done a really good job excavating this joint. Now I'm moving down to the next joint. Okay. It also has some articulation,
It
right?
feels like it's on the inside part
Okay.
of the joint. Oh.
Because of the bone.
I really like this move.
Pushing the toe to the side.
Yeah, like pushing as far as it will go and then just holding it,
It's right in
letting
her
her breathe through it.
It's right in her neck.
And the breath's going to take away a lot of that tension, right? So I don't have to do much. I just need to get her to make aware of it, right? Bring it to her awareness and then let her breathe through it, process. So this is the yin part here, right? Just the holding and nurturing, loving kindness and compassion. I'm not really forcefully pushing, just holding the space.
Everybody
so
should be
nice
aware
reward.
of their own breath. Make sure your breath is moving, that you're not holding.
Ow, fuck.
Yeah.
Ow.
So it was stuck in this joint, and then there was a little bit of a pop, it released, and there's a lot more fluidity to the joint. One way to click is just to hold above the joint here, and I usually kind of do it like this. But I use it through a sheet, just grab that toe, and then if you come closely, you can hear it snap. So we're 5 for 5. Okay. So now I want to continue. We're continuing the big toe belly band work because we want to get back into her abdomen. We want to get rid of all that emotional tension there.
And Karina, were you saying that area sort of in the mid-arch where there's often tension is the adrenals?
Yeah, right here.
Which a lot of people have nowadays because we all have so much stress, way more now so than ever before.
The dream
Look
cream.
at the charts on every session, right? What's
When
going
I did
on?
my-
Oh, I'm tight in the neck. Oh, let's try the foot. Neck. Oh, you're tight here. Let's go back to the neck. It's kind of like, it's totally related.
I find another thing that Terry could do because we're pushing so much energy up. You could either clear the belly just with a couple belly pumps, or just clear the head up again and then go right back down to the foot.
Like he says, if you feel it flick it, same if you see them struggling, like when Trevor was working and you guys were working my big toe yesterday, my heart was grabbing here and was grabbing here, I could totally feel it there. So yeah, it needs a little bit more attention. You know?
So if you were alone, you could have one thumb or hand working the point and the other hand
You just
on the
find that
belly.
area and give it a good pump that excess energy out, or rub the head a little bit, calm them down again, and just.
All right, so you can temper it with some shakes.
Marathon runner told me he took me on his run with him for a big competition with the big human records. Told him, "You're running
Are you working that area just under the sternum again?
Under the left rib cage. Just felt some more tightness there. I felt it was coming up.
So you're doing energy work right now. What are you visualizing?
I am not
Yeah,
actively
yeah.
doing anything right now.
Okay.
I'm just hovering my hand over her body and just observing what I feel. So I'm actually more, not projecting, but more receiving. Like,
Holding space.
yeah. This is just the yin part of the treatment. Now, if I just hold here long enough, I might feel some heat or some cold. I might feel some magnetism, a pushing, pulling. Like if you've ever taken magnets and you try to repel one with the other. I cannot squish her body right now. There's just so much energy between our hands that I actually am bouncing off of her. I mean, I could touch her if I wanted to, but I can feel that there's a magnetism or some field. I don't know how you would want to describe it. Okay, now that she's settled a little bit, right? That was the yin part. Now we can stir it up a little bit more. Okay, like Karina said, she's reaching her head, she's massaging her head, so that's a good indicator that maybe she needs some work here.
If you feel that you're picking up too much energy when you're touching their heads, you can do it through a towel as well. Brandon really likes to use a towel to not pick up so much of people's energies. Whatever your choice.
It would look like this.
Or even just squishing the head. Yeah.
So I'm squishing with a little lift towards her because I want to direct it out from her head and away. If I felt there was still a lot of stiffness in the neck, I might now choose to do another adjustment. Now, when I was working her belly, I did feel it was a little bit more on the left side now, so now I'm just going to switch feet. Do the same thing over again, but on this side.